With that being a consistent problem and him operating on one kidney already, it got to the point, Dave, where earlier this year he was hospitalized for 3 months.
Tears started to come out of her eyes, and she just said, "Because I love you. My love is so strong, it's so great. I won't allow anything to happen to me."
This guy can't catch a break, man. I mean, he's been battling. It's been a struggle throughout his career, literally in the hospital after every great victory that he had.
Flex Wheeler is regarded as having one of the most well-proportioned and symmetrical physiques ever in the history of bodybuilding. So what were his views and personal experiences with steroids? Flex Wheeler on painful effects of steroids. Kenneth Flex Wheeler is a bodybuilding legend who was in his prime during the 90s. Flex established himself as one of the biggest rivals of 6-time Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates and 8-time Mr. Olympia Ronnie Coleman. Throughout his career, he also held the record for most Arnold Classic wins for a while, and Schwarzenegger himself admired him a lot. However, health issues cut his career short. In an interview, Flex recalled how anabolic steroids helped him put on muscle but also caused a lot of pain. Flex Wheeler once admitted to taking steroids to put on more muscle.
In the 90s, that was a huge thing. It's as prevalent as using steroids. So, I tried it.
However, Wheeler didn't expect to put on a lot of muscle after using steroids. The bodybuilding legend said, "I put on like 30 pounds and I was like, is this safe?" However, putting on a lot of muscle fast wasn't the only thing Wheeler was dealing with.
I wasn't happy with the results and everything, but most people don't admit to trying it. I'm not going to, tattle on anybody else.
Flex recalled after taking steroids, his muscles grew so quickly that his skin couldn't keep up.
I've always had crazy guns anyway, so training, they believe in just injecting themselves instead of going out and training, so I guess that what makes it more popular now.
Flex also said the stretch marks are there even after decades. He said the marks were present on his forearms and in between the legs.
After admitting that I tried it back in the 90s, tried it in my arms and my shoulders, because of the swelling and everything like that.
Everyone admired Flex Wheeler for his symmetrical physique. He even earned the nickname Sultan of Symmetry from fans, but unfortunately never won the Mr. Olympia title. However, Wheeler has won the Arnold Classic 4 times. Schwarzenegger even said Wheeler was one of the greatest bodybuilders he had ever seen. Flex Wheeler is a bodybuilding icon, and not just Schwarzenegger, even the King Ronnie Coleman said Flex was one of the greatest ever. While Flex didn't win bodybuilding's biggest title, he won the respect of fans and rivals.
That's probably one of the pros and cons of me. I admit to everything I've ever done, but and majority of the people don't. The part I don't get is people think I still do.
Wheeler's steroid use and kidney problems. Flex Wheeler decided to open up in the most detail that we have seen from him regarding his health condition, his mental state, and his current condition. While he started off competing clean, when Flex decided to put all of his attention into bodybuilding, he began exploring performance enhancers. He started off with some anabolics, but after being teased by someone he knew from the gym, he was convinced to try androgens. After he started using gear, Flex Wheeler went on to begin competing at a high level, winning several shows and making a name for himself.
There's a lot of cosmetic drugs out there that a lot of people are using now, and that's one of the things I'm looking for on stage and just showing just unreal separation.
However, things began to change in 1999, around the time he came in second at Mr. Olympia. Even to this day, doctors are unsure what caused it, but Flex began having kidney problems.
I choose to focus all my energy and efforts on myself instead of concerning what somebody else looks like now.
He said he noticed things were getting worse when after every competition he would rebound 30 to 40 pounds, with extreme swelling in his hands and feet and even his genitals. Wheeler explained that the doctors made assumptions based on his physique, which led to them not doing the proper testing diagnosis. Then, in 2000, they finally did a biopsy and discovered he had FSG, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, one of the deadliest kidney diseases out there. After this, Flex tried to keep competing in spite of the massive amounts of medication that he was being forced to take. However, at this point, he knew that he needed to compete clean. Things continued to decline from that point, with doctors being amazed at how Flex Wheeler had been able to handle things. His kidney problems got to the point where he was in sudden death kidney failure. Despite procedure after procedure, Flex had no choice but to eventually get his leg amputated. In fact, by the time he had to get the procedure done, he almost lost more than that. On top of that, because of the nature of his health issues, Flex says that there are still lingering problems. He is in a position now where he can still lose his other limbs too, because of continued blockage in his arteries.
I can't do a damn thing about those guys making them look better or worse. So why worry about him? I'm trying to do the best I can and control it myself.
Wheeler's recovery from leg amputation. In 2019, the industry was left in shock when Wheeler had to undergo emergency surgery to amputate his lower right leg. Otherwise, he could die.
This is the first surgery where, my leg, and changed my life forever.
Wheeler said that it was either losing his leg or losing his life, a decision that was due to escalating circulation difficulties that had reached a dangerous point. In a public statement at the time,
I think the biggest challenge for me is going to be when I wake up and notice that my leg is gone.
Wheeler said the decision to amputate part of his right leg was due to escalating circulation difficulties in my right leg that had become life-threatening.
And honestly, I don't know what that's going to feel like. I'm pretty mentally prepared for everything right now.
After the procedure, Wheeler explained that he knew amputation could be a possibility for a while, but was hopeful to save his right leg through medication and surgeries. However, the leg had become incredibly painful.
It's sad, but it took this for me just to really realize what other amputees go through,
impacting his ability to walk, let alone exercise. He said, "At that time, the doctor just stared at me, and I started crying because I knew. She said flex were there, so I said, just take it."
From the airport and just sitting there waiting for them and having people just look at me I'm like, yeah, I'm that guy now that people stare at.
Wheeler, who retired from action in 2000, posted a video of himself post-operation back in the gym. In it, he can be seen lifting weights, including at one point using his prosthetic right leg. One caption read, "I will not be denied." After the procedure, Wheeler recalled being in near unbearable pain. He was on a ton of narcotics in the hospital, but he refused to keep taking them when he got out, for fear of getting addicted.
Here I sit as an amputee, and finally I'm just comfortable. My life is great. I'm truly blessed.
Talking to him on the phone made me feel a whole lot more optimistic. Fight is behind him. He's going to deal with the circumstances.
Sean Ray was one of the few people to talk to Wheeler when he was first rushed to the hospital. Following the loss of the lower part of Wheeler's right leg, Ray opened up a bit on what caused this tragedy to happen. Ray went on to explain that Wheeler has been dealing with some depression.
This is not something that happened overnight. It's been an ongoing struggle and a continuous battle for flex. It has a lot more to do with his circulatory vascular system.
Therefore, he was glad that Flex chose to get the amputation, as opposed to losing his life.
The worst case scenario is that he may lose a limb and in order to keep him alive. And I guess if you got to choose between life and limb, Flex chose life, which I'm glad to hear.
At the time, he confirmed reports that Flex Wheeler is maintaining a positive attitude, and in Wheeler's public statements and gym workouts, this was visible. According to Ray, leg amputation was a final solution for the health problems of Flex Wheeler.
Been in excruciating pain for a long time, even going back before he made his infamous comeback 2 years ago.
He could have had compounding issues, which led to the decision to remove his leg. However, at this point, all that is left is for him to heal up and rest in the hospital. Sean Ray further discussed the return to bodybuilding Flex Wheeler made in 2017.
Flex said he was suicidal a long time ago.
Right.
Manic depressive, and had some very strong identity issues.
They discussed how pushing through the pain then could have led to this situation. Nevertheless, everyone is hoping for a speedy recovery for the bodybuilding legend.
This situation, the finality of it all, I'm hoping that this solved the problem that he has. He's back up and going.
Wheeler's rotator cuff surgery. In more recent news, Flex Wheeler is a few weeks out from surgery to repair a repeat rotator cuff surgery in his left shoulder. While this was supposed to be a surgery that allowed him to return home shortly after, the legendary bodybuilder remains in the hospital recovering. Wheeler recently joined the Menace podcast on the Muscle and Fitness YouTube page to discuss his current state. He gave a full health update, including some issues that were found in his kidneys. Wheeler began by explaining that he was originally kept in the hospital because of the pain. Flex Wheeler has had a difficult time when it comes to health. He was hospitalized toward the end of 2021 with COVID-19 and underwent a recovery process that lasted a month. As we saw before, he experienced kidney failure and blood clots in 2019, which caused his right leg to be amputated. 2 years later, Wheeler explains how his kidney had lasted 20 years, and this is not the norm when a kidney is replaced. The donor that he received the kidney from was small. Because of the size of the kidney, it has seen some wear and tear over the years and is showing signs of failure. It seems as though Flex Wheeler is in for another long battle and recovery process. but the Sultan of Symmetry never gives up and continues to fight. Kidney damage due to steroid use. From the steroid scandals that plagued Major League Baseball to the jokes that surround steroid side effects among bodybuilders, using steroids doesn't enjoy a good reputation. It's true that using certain steroids in small amounts under medical supervision won't hurt. However, using large amounts of anabolic steroids for a long period of time can do people real harm. Athletes who use anabolic steroids may gain muscle mass and strength, but they can also destroy their kidney function, as we just saw in the case of Flex Wheeler. Competitive bodybuilders routinely take anabolic steroids to achieve their enormous physiques. One study involving bodybuilders with scarring and reduced function of renal glomeruli had anabolic steroids and high protein, and in the mix, both thought to worsen the effect of the other. That study began 10 years ago when a smart Columbia University physician noticed that a bodybuilder had an advanced form of kidney disease. She started looking for similar cases and eventually found and studied 10 male bodybuilders with serious kidney disease who acknowledged that they had used anabolic steroids. Many people who use anabolic steroids recreationally take much more than is typically used for medical conditions. This is especially true if the steroids are in a supplement or injection that contains high concentrations. All 10 men in the case series showed damage to the glomeruli, or the filters of the kidney. 9 had an irreversible disease, FSG, the same disease that Flex Wheeler has. The kidney damage in bodybuilders has similarities to that seen in morbidly obese patients, but appears to be even more severe. When the bodybuilders discontinued steroid use, their kidney abnormalities improved, with the exception of one individual with advanced kidney disease who developed end-stage kidney failure and required dialysis. Also, one of the bodybuilders started taking steroids again and suffered a relapse of severe kidney dysfunction. The conclusion was that a combination of a very high-protein diet and fairly large doses of anabolic steroids would very likely lead to kidney damage. That's all for today's video. See you next time.